Okay. Directing what's going on. Let's see. Why can't I see anything? I don't see anything on Facebook. I see that we're live, but I don't see a picture. Oh.
Did you? You went in the group, right? You went, like it says, like, do you want to share it with what group? And then you put in your group name there.
Yeah, it's this is what it looks like. Can you see? So it's like a
so maybe
oh wait, it's working.
Okay.
It's working. Okay, you see it? You see it?
Black time. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, great. I don't know why I can't see. Oh yeah, I can see. All righty. I am so excited. So from our first webinar, I learned that if you play, because I played Whitney Houston, I'm Every Woman in the beginning, and apparently without proper copyright permission, Sony finds you and shuts down the whole video. So I'm not going to make that mistake again. But let's see. So no fun music, just the sound of my voice. Well, welcome everybody. I'm Dr. Tandi. I am so excited that we have a super duper special guest today, Dr. Sogol Palavan. I heard her on a different podcast and I was like, oh my gosh, I hope that I can get her to agree to come and talk to us, because she talked to us about she spoke about one of the most important things, that the how to address the thing that will prevent us from moving forward in life, no matter what stage we are, and in business, which is self-doubt, which is a form of fear. We all are going to feel fear, especially if you're moving from one level to the next level, whether it's you're moving from not having a practice to beginning your practice, or being in a practice and expanding your practice. There's a phrase, new level, new devil. So every expansion level comes with its own set of challenges. And when I heard her speaking about how to overcome self-doubt, I said, this woman is amazing. So Dr. Palavan, she's a general pediatrician who is practicing in Houston. She is a managing partner of a pediatric practice. And she also happens to work with her sister. In addition to that, she is the mom of, is it 3 kids or 2? 3 kids on top of that. And if that was not enough, she also is a certified mindfulness coach. And don't we all need mindfulness coach with all the craziness that is going on right now? And she focuses on helping female minority physicians. So I am so excited about having her. So welcome to the Ophthalmology Private Practice Mastermind. And I look forward to hearing all of the good nuggets that you're going to share.
Thank you so much for having me. Okay, so first I wanted to say this is my tribe. I love physicians that are in private practice. I have been advocating for physicians to move into private practice, and what I call is breaking the chains, taking off the shackles, and really following your dreams. And what I usually say is, if you have an inkling, okay, if there is a tiny little thought that comes across your brain that, maybe I should start a practice, or I wonder what it feels like to start a practice, or maybe I can start a practice, please take that, hold it, ignite it, and feed it, because yes, you're going to have so much self-doubt. 95% of those thoughts that come after the, oh, maybe I should start private practice, is just going to be negative, negative, bad, horrible, sit, don't do that. But if you are thinking about it, if there's a thought that goes in your mind, I say you are one of the like 0.1% of physicians that is this rare breed that if you have the thought, then just act on it. The next step is to act on it. So super, super psyched to be here with y'all. I'm going to tell you a little bit about, kind of super fast, about my story. I am a general board certified pediatrician. I started my practice 2 years out of residency, and I have been in practice for 13 years. My sister's also a pediatrician. So for me, my journey, I feel like, was a little bit safer because I had someone to bounce ideas off of. It wasn't just me by myself. I had zero business background. I did not go into med school thinking I was going to start a practice. Just life just happened like that, and I did. And I have made every single mistake in the book, because back then when we started private practice, there was no Facebook group. There was no mastermind group, right? Literally, what we would do if we had issues, I would go sit in a room with my sister and I'd be like, what do you want to do about this? And she's like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And then we'd just like sit there for a minute and be like, okay, maybe we should do this. And then we would do it. And half the time it didn't work and half the time it worked. So it was like trial and error. So this is the era to really connect, to really go out, in those Facebook groups, or get a mentor, or talk to someone that's been in private practice. Reach out. And all of us in private practice are so stoked to talk to other physicians that want to open up their practice. So we are more than willing to help. So reach out, network, educate yourself, and you will, if you have the thought that you want to start private practice, the only thing that is standing in your way, it's not the finances, it's not the time, it's not the energy, it's not the family, it's not the lack of knowledge, it is your brain. It is your thoughts telling you a zillion different things all day long is why you aren't or can't do it. So this is kind of what I'm going to talk about. And mostly I'm going to focus on self-doubt, because that is something that intertwines daily in our lives, in all aspects of our lives. So let's start out with the definition of self-doubt. 2 definitions, if you look it up. It is the inability to see the good things in yourself. Okay, I'm going to read it again. Inability to see the good things in yourself. This does not mean I am not good. This does not mean I don't have anything good in me. This is that you can't see the goodness in yourself. Okay, so it is a block from your brain that does not allow you to see how awesome you are. And the lack of confidence in yourself and your abilities. Again, this does not say that you don't have confidence and you're not capable and you don't have abilities. It says that you have all this stuff, except that you do not see this confidence. You're not able to tap into those abilities. You're not able to tap into those capabilities. And why? Because of all the drama that's going on in your brain. So your worst enemy is sitting up here. It's not the insurance companies. It's not the big hospital system. They are in a sense, but number one, it's your brain and your thoughts. And we're going to talk about how that kind of feeds into a lot of the beliefs that we have. Okay. So to doubt is to be human. If you did not have any self-doubt, then you would be like artificial intelligence, or you'd be a computer, or you'd be a robot, right? All human beings have a brain. Our brain gives us some thoughts, and there are a lot of thoughts that are aligned with self-doubt. So the question isn't like, oh my God, why am I doubting myself again? That part everybody does. Every human being does that. The question is, oh, I notice I'm doubting my abilities again. So what do I want to do with this? Do I want to take this to heart? Do I just want to notice it and let it go? Do I want it to just walk alongside me for a while, hand in hand, and then we'll see where the journey takes us? Do I want to resist it and push it and fight against it? Or do I want to open up into it and acknowledge it and comfort it and say it's okay, and then continue to move on my path? Okay. So a little bit about brain anatomy, and y'all probably know it better than I do because I'm a general pediatrician and you're closer to the brain than I am in a sense. 3 areas, and this is super important. I always like to start out at like the foundation of where these thoughts are coming from. 3 areas in the brain. You've got the reptilian brain. You can probably see this reptilian brain down here, which is your cerebellum, pons, and medulla. You've got the midbrain, which is your amygdala. That's where it is. And then you've got the neocortex. So back in the days when, like before humans went around and animals, this is, I don't know if you've heard of this term, the cerebellum is the reptilian brain. It's the primitive brain. Okay. So in order for us to, as a species, or even animals as a species, to survive, what did they have to do? They had to be able to act really quick. They had to be able to know when they're going to be chased and eaten by something. So this is the system, the part of the brain that has the flight, fight, and the freeze. So it's always asking, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? Okay. It is a survival part of your brain, and that is your primitive part of your brain. Everybody has this. All animals have this, including humans. As we evolved and as we developed, then the brain developed into these other parts. Your midbrain is, how am I feeling? All of your feelings come from your midbrain. So your midbrain is always asking you, am I loved? How are you feeling? Do you feel loved? So that's where that comes from. Your neocortex, which is the new cortex, which is what developed after the reptilian brain, is the part that you want to recognize and that you want to work from, and you want to focus on that area. That area is called the prefrontal cortex, is the part that's in the front, right? There's a big neocortex, but the prefrontal cortex. And in pediatrics, we see a lot of kids with ADHD, and we talk a lot about the prefrontal cortex that's not developed till the age of 25. It's your executive function part of your brain. So that's the part that tells you, am I learning? Am I being innovative? Am I being creative? So that's where the planning comes from. That's where the organization comes from. That's where your execution comes from. So this is the part, the neocortex, the prefrontal cortex, that we want to stimulate more. And that's the part that we want to follow. We want those thoughts, our thoughts, to come from that part of the brain versus the back part of your brain, which is like, am I surviving? Oh my God, don't do that. Wait, open a business. That means you're not going to be safe, right? There's going to be so much danger. There's so much fear. So knowing that, the second concept I want to talk about is this, what's called a motivational triad. Back in the cave ages, where there were cave women and men, right? We had to survive, right? We didn't have electricity. We didn't have water. We didn't have plumbing. We didn't have Wi-Fi. So we had to be able to survive on our instincts. If there was a lion chasing us, we couldn't sit out and be like, I wonder if I can make, draw a picture of this lion. We had to be like, oh my God, run, there's a lion, right? So the brain, that primitive part of the brain, is very used to 3 things. It wants to avoid pain. It does not want the lion to eat it. It wants to conserve energy. It doesn't want to run really fast away from the lion. It wants to hide in its cave, and it wants to seek pleasure. It likes to kind of hibernate. You know how bears hibernate? They take a lot of food into their cave or wherever they're sleeping for the winter, and they sleep. That's what it likes to do. It likes to stay safe with a lot of food, a lot of meat, a lot of nuts, whatever that you eat, and avoid pain and avoid the people out there. So that is how it operates. So every time you have a new idea that your prefrontal cortex offers you, like, maybe I should leave my employed position and go partner with someone, or maybe I should go part-time because I want to venture out and have my own practice. The reptilian brain starts going, wah, 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 danger, danger, danger. That is definitely not safe. We don't want to go out there. That is going to be very painful because you're going to lose half your salary, or you're going to, our views are going to come down. You're going to get, your finances are going to get cut in half. And it's a lot of work. it's not conserving energy. Oh my gosh, you have to like learn about business, you have to learn about insurance companies, and you have to learn about how to manage people. So your reptilian brain is going to tell you no, and that's where it's going to offer you those thoughts of self-doubt. So this is kind of in a nutshell how your brain operates. So self-preservation is the first law of nature, meaning that your primitive brain, when you are walking around and it offers you any ideas, the primitive brain wants you to survive. It's self-preservation. It does not want you to die. So when you want to step out of your comfort zone, whether that be let's marry someone, let's have a kid, let's start a business, let's move, let's relocate, whatever, that's a lot of fear, right? So the brain tells you, nope, you're going to die. And literally all the thoughts end up to like, I'm going to lose my job, be homeless, lose my family, and like die in the corner. That if you take all your thoughts out, it's like homelessness and death usually is what it ends up with. And that, just the fact to be aware of that, is just the natural part of what your brain does through evolution. Everybody's brain is like this. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't mean that you're like more scared or more conservative than other people. The people that actually act on those are the ones that can see above and beyond this primitive brain and use their prefrontal cortex and be like, I hear you, but we're not going to die. That's the worst case scenario, is not death. You know, worst case scenario is probably like, my income might be cut in a couple of, 6 months or a year, but I'm not going to die. If you made it through med school, and if you made it through your surgical rotation, which I did not like, and I didn't die, then I'm not going to die by just, going out there and starting a business. That just doesn't make sense. So don't believe your brain. Acknowledge it, pat it on the head and say, it's okay, but we're not going to die. Okay, so this is the analogy of the caveman that I was talking about. Your primitive brain wants you to sit in your cave with a nice fire, cozy around your, comfort zone, around your friends and family, and munch on your food. And whenever you have an idea, a new idea that you haven't done before, this is the image it's going to give you. Okay. And so a lot of times what I hear is feedback from physicians are, I know student loans has been a huge subject for a lot of the new residents that are coming out. So I don't have the money. I don't have the time. This is what your primitive brain is going to tell you. I don't have the energy. And my favorite, oh so favorite, is I'm a doctor. I don't know how to do the business part. Which I tell them, okay, did you know how to doctor before you went to med school? No. Did you know how to operate on an eye before you entered ophtho residency? No. What did you do? You went out there, you put yourself out there, you worked super hard, you studied. Yes, there was a curriculum and a program that you had to go through, but there's a lot of curriculums and programs that are not like university based out there, like these groups that I was talking about, that can guide you through those steps. Some of them are not as structured as like, let's take an MCAT and get into med school and then take 4 tests and get into residency. A lot of them are online. So there's so much more flexibility in it. And the cost is nothing compared to what you're paying for, what you paid for medical school. So don't believe those thoughts. There is enough time in the day. And the example that I usually bring up is, okay, go to your phone, go to your like little screen, social media screen, like the time that for your social media, and click on it and tell me how many hours you spent on your social media a day. Mine was 7 hours and 15 minutes. So I will be totally transparent. So maybe you can take an hour from that social media screen time and like fit it into like, maybe I'll take these hours and I'll try to like network, and I'll try to study, and I'll try to research how to open up a practice. So there's enough time. The energy, if this is something that I found out in the last year. If you are pursuing something from the heart, if you, from your passion, if it is your why, if you have, and this is one of the first things that I really advise all of y'all that are willing to go into or contemplating going into the private practice, is to write why, because your why is what you are going to keep falling back on. Okay, it's not your how, it's your why, because a lot of the hows you're going to have a lot of blocks, and so you have to go back to your why, and your why has to be so compelling that it can pull you through all those challenges that you see. So my why was, I want our practice is in East Houston, and it's in an underserved Hispanic community, so we're 70% Medicaid. And for those, my initial why, coming from my ego, was, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to create a clinic that is a predominantly Medicaid clinic that is based on quality care and evidence-based medicine, because I love these patients, and they deserve the same quality care that, their private patients do. And we've been going at it for 13 years. Has it been easy? No. Has there been a lot of headaches? Sure. But is it fulfilling? Heck yes. I love my patients, they love me. And the reason we've gone into medicine is for the relationship, right? So like, really think about your why and keep falling back on that why. You don't need to know the hows. The hows you are going to do because you're a physician and you're smart and you're driven and you're dedicated. So the hows are not the problem, it's the why, and coming back and aligning that with your values. Okay. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that this is a phenomenon that your brain does very often, right? So you're having all these nice thoughts about like, oh, I want to open up a practice because I really want to practice medicine the way I want to, on my terms, on my time, with the, having the staff, training the staff the way that I want to. And your brain is just going to shout out all these things. You don't have any energy, you don't have any time, you're going to end up homeless. And it's also what it's going to do. It's going to seek pleasure. So how does it seek pleasure? What it does, it says, here you go. Let's go grab a glass of wine. That should make you feel better. That's going to make you forget about all those problems and your medical director and your CEO and your MA. And maybe when you're having that glass of wine, why don't we grab some dark chocolate? That sounds really good with our glass of wine. And why don't we plop down in this couch and we can just turn on Netflix, or we can grab our phone and go on Facebook and start scrolling, and or go into this Netflix, like what is it called? The binge on Netflix, right? So it's going to start derailing you from this awesome, great idea that your prefrontal cortex gave you. So be aware of it. The first thing that you need to do is be aware. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is, a lot of times I hear, okay, well, I'm in this employed position and I'm getting an salary, right? Like an X amount of salary, and the salary is adequate enough to cover my expenses. And, I can pay my kids' private school, or I can pay off my mortgage and my loan and whatever expenses that you have, right? But for us, that really, those physicians, again, that really want to go into private practice, there's a little, what I call it, like a knock, like a nudge that just keeps like knocking on the door once in a while. And it keeps saying like, hello, I'm still here. Yes, I know you're comfortable in your employed position, but I think we can do better. We're still here, right? And if you're hearing that little nudge, that little knock, that little voice in your head, then pay attention to it, because that's what that prefrontal cortex, your adult brain, your parent brain, is giving you. And if you keep resisting it and avoiding it and muting it, it's going to get louder and louder and louder, because that inner voice, that's the passion. That's your calling. Okay. Not everybody has that inner voice. Not everybody wants to go into private practice, which is totally fine. It's not made for everyone. But if you're here in this webinar and you're thinking about it, that means you've got that knock. That means you've got that calling. So I want you to listen to it. And I want you to think about instant gratification versus delayed gratification, right? That y'all remember, I'm a pediatrician, so y'all remember the marshmallow test that a Stanford psychologist did in like the 1960s, 1970s, where they put kids that were like 5 to 6 years old in one by one in a room with one marshmallow, and they're like, okay, if you sit here and you look at this marshmallow and you don't eat it for I don't know how many minutes, then you get 2 marshmallows. But if you eat it, then you just get that 1 marshmallow. Okay, so they did this experiment for like, I think like 5, 6 years. And then they got all their data and they found out the kids that held out, that did not eat that marshmallow, they followed them through like their schooling, high school schooling, and they found out that they were more resilient. Their ACT, SAT scores were higher. They had better stress management skills, and more resilience. So what I offer you is don't take the instant gratification of the paycheck or the the PTO or whatever benefits that the employed position is giving you. Try to aim for that delayed gratification, because with that delayed gratification, there's so many more awards that you're going to come across when you take that longer path versus taking that shorter one now. And this is a really hard concept because I see my kids, they live in a world of instant gratification, right? I'm hungry, there's DoorDash, it came in 20 minutes. Oh my God, last time it came in 15 minutes. Why is it 20 minutes, right? Or, I could give you all these examples. So our brain is so used to like, I want it now, and it should be here 5 minutes before. And you see this in your patients too, right? Like, I made an appointment, it's at 2 o'clock. Why didn't I see the doctor at 1:30? Well, sir, your appointment isn't until 2 o'clock, right? And so our brains are getting wired over and over programmed to this instant gratification. And it's really a disservice to us, to our society. So again, notice that, be aware of that. When those thoughts come up saying, no, I'm not going to choose this instant gratification. I'm going to choose this delayed gratification. Yes, it will be a harder road, but you know what? I'm going to learn. And life is about learning, and life is about growing, and life is about evolving. Life is not about sitting in your comfort zone and kind of chilling and cruising and having rainbows and daisies all day long, right? That is not how we learn. That was not the purpose of life. Okay, so why we talked a little bit about this. Why does your primitive brain offer you all this self-doubt? I would say number one is fear. It scares us to death if we want to do something new, whether it's like bungee jumping off of something, or going skydiving, or going out on a new date, or meeting the in-laws. Okay, anything that's new is fear. And then fear of rejection. What if I open up my business and I'm not going to have patients? You will have patients. Okay, that's our fear of rejection. Fear of judgment. What are my current partner, or not partners, associates going to say if I go open a business? Are they going to say like, who does she think she is? Who does she think she can do it on their own? What's my boss going to say? What are my patients going to say? I hear this a lot. Like, I love my patients. I don't want to leave my patients. I don't want to open up my own business. Your patients are going to follow you because they love you. That's what your patients are going to say. Your patients are going to say like, oh my God, I'm so glad. Where are you going? I'm going to follow you. Fear of failure. Okay, you're going to fail. That is part of life. This is what we teach our children. Failure, the path to success is failures. The more failures you have, the more successful you are. So you should embrace failure. Fear of change. This is super difficult. I think it's gotten maybe a little bit better because of COVID, because we all had to throw everything out the door and kind of change on a whim, and our personal life and our careers and our finances, everything kind of changed. So, that kind of shifted our habits and our behaviors. But there is a lot of change, especially in the space of medicine right now. So yes, You have to be comfortable with change, and you will learn to be comfortable with change because that's how you adapt. Fear of mistakes. Okay, type A, competitive, honor roll, top of the class physician, right? Oh no, we don't make mistakes. If we make mistakes, we must be dumb, right? No, we're human. We make mistakes. We're not perfect. I just had this conversation with one of my associates. It's like, I fear that I'm going to miss something. And I'm like, you know what? I've missed stuff, but the beauty of primary care is they come back. That's why it's a medical home. You miss stuff and they call and they're like, my kid isn't better. And you're like, okay, come back. Let's look at it again. Things evolve. So this fear of like, I might make a mistake. I might miss something. Yes, you will. Just tell that to your brain. I am going to miss something. I am going to make mistakes, and it is okay. Nobody's going to die. Fear of inadequacy. Oh my gosh. Number one thing, I'm a doctor. I don't know how to do business. I didn't go to business school. I don't know anything about business. I don't know what a spreadsheet looks like. I don't know P&L reports. Again, you're a doctor, period. If you don't know anything, you'll figure it out. You figured out medicine, you're saving lives, you are operating on this like tiny organ in the body. You can figure out a PLN report. It's not that difficult. And then I think the biggest thing that goes with fear is fear of uncertainty. That's a really difficult one for people to embrace. Like, can you just tell me that it's going to work out? It will. It will, because you're going to believe in yourself, and you're going to fail, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to pick your butt back up, and you're going to keep moving. Okay. I can't tell you when it will work out, right? I can't tell you after 6 months of opening up your ophthalmology business, then you will hit, take a paycheck home, or after a year, but I can tell you it will. If I did it and I had no experience, I like literally just walked in there and we were like, let's do this. And we made a bunch of mistakes and we're still here. We haven't gone away. So really think about those reasons. Now, with all that said, every step of the way, you have to be aware. You have to be aware of all those thoughts that your primitive brain is offering you. Self-awareness, meaning what am I thinking in my brain? What is my brain giving me? What are those thoughts? That self-awareness, being aware of your thoughts, is the antidote to self-doubt. Okay, because before, if you're not aware, you believe in your thoughts, right? When the brain tells you, oh, you're not good enough, you can't do business, you don't know how to do business, you just say, oh yeah, you're right, I can't do business, you're right, and then you move about not doing business, right? But if you're self-aware and you know that, oh, that's just a thought that my primitive brain is telling me because it wants me, it wants to protect me, right? Because that's the survival part of your brain. So it's not a fact, it's an opinion. So do I want to believe it? Do I want to pay attention to it? Do I want to keep feeding it? How do you feed your thoughts? Is by focusing on them, paying attention, right? So you keep repeating it. Oh, I'm not good in business. Somebody else comes up and says, hey, weren't you talking about, opening up a practice? Oh, I'm not good in business. Your husband's like, hey, what happened to that thing about the practice? Oh, I'm not good in business, right? When you start believing and repeating, then those thoughts turn into beliefs, and then you believe that you're not good in business, okay? Which is not a thought that is going to serve you well at all, right? And so the first step is to recognize I think we have like 20 to 60,000 thoughts a day. 80% of our thoughts are negative, and I think 80 to 85% of them are repetitive. So your brain is constantly telling you, don't do that, this is bad, this is horrible, don't take that, nah. And it's okay. It's okay as long as you're aware that this is coming from my primitive brain. I'm going to take what it tells me. I'm going to use my adult part of my brain, and I'm going to say, does this thought serve me? Is this a nice thought? No, it's not. Well, thank you for offering me that, but we're just going to put this down and go about our way, right? That is a practice that you need to do every single day. Because some of our beliefs, some of the thoughts that come, you're going to be able to be like, oh yeah, I know that's not true. Other ones that are deeply rooted are going to be much harder to understand and much harder to shift and much harder to not believe. And so that's where the practice comes in, is really being aware every day and then practicing the opposite of what your thoughts are saying. Okay. Why do we talk about thoughts so much? Because what your brain creates in your thoughts it creates your reality. So let me give you an example. You're a doctor, you don't know how to do medicine. Okay. How does that make you feel when your brain offers you the thought that you're a doctor, you don't know business? Did I say you don't know medicine? Sorry. You don't know business. Okay. If I keep thinking I don't know business, I feel kind of not motivated. I feel down. I feel very cautious, like, oh, maybe I don't know business. Oh, maybe I shouldn't go there. And if I'm carrying around this feeling of despair and like being cautious and doubting myself, am I going to go out and am I going to like Google stuff to try to see how I open up a business? Am I going to go reach out to people that are in private practice and talk to them? No, I'm just going to kind of sit there. I'm going to procrastinate. I'm going to put my head down. I'm not going to take any actions. Okay. It creates inaction, which is like stillness. You're not doing anything. But what if I say, maybe I'm capable of opening up a business. Maybe I'm capable of learning to open up a business or to learning to go into private practice. How does that feel? Maybe I'm capable. Well, maybe, sure. I might be capable, right? So you come from despair and not movement to like, oh, that sounds okay. I can be a little bit curious about that. Yeah, maybe. Sure. I believe that. That gives you a little bit of hope. When you're working with hope, what happens? You do stuff. Maybe I can go on the internet and Google some stuff. Oh, maybe I can reach out to the local ophthalmologist in my town. Maybe I can reach out to our state chapter. We have a pediatric state chapter. I'm sure ophthalmology does too. So you start taking action. So your thoughts are the first thing that end up creating your experience, your reality. So that's why it's so important to know where those thoughts come from. So I wanted to give you some concrete examples of what I do to really focus in and bring that awareness to my thoughts, okay? And get rid of a lot of these self-doubts and self-judgment that our brain keeps offering us. I do what's called a daily check-in, and this does not have to be long. It does not have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, you could do this in like your lunch hour. Hopefully most of y'all take lunch hours. If not, then do it in the morning when you wake up, if you're an early bird, or do it at night when you are, if you're staying up late, or do it like in your car right after you sit in your car leaving work, or right before you pull into your garage, somewhere quiet without your kids and husband and everything else. My daily check-in, I write down my thoughts for the day. I write down the events that happened, and then I pick something that's really been bugging me. Okay. So if it's like, you can do this with relationships, you can do this with anything. And I just allow my brain, I just write down all those thoughts. And when you put a pen to paper, those thoughts that are really deep and rooted that have been bugging you, but you're not aware of them, but you feel like yuck, but you're like, I don't know why I feel this way. Those thoughts are the ones that are going to come out. So the ones that you think every day, those are the superficial ones that are like in your head, like, oh my God, like, my boss told me this thing again, and he wants me to see more patients, and the MA didn't triage this kid, and the OR wasn't prepped right. Those are superficial thoughts, but once you start putting it down to paper, you'll get the really juicy thoughts come out, to where sometimes I'm like, oh my, was my brain thinking that? No wonder I feel horrible. So get in a habit of doing that. It takes less than a couple of minutes. It's just writing down your thoughts, or if something's bothering you about something, writing down what you think about it. And then what I want you to do is I want you to seek. So what your brain does when it has a negative thought, it's going to go back and it's going to look in its file folder, and it's going to take out all this evidence that's negative to prove that that thought is true. Okay, so let's say a prime example is like, oh, I'm an introvert, so I don't do public speaking, right? Like I can't do public speaking. So then your brain's going to go, oh, remember in second grade when the math teacher called on you and you didn't know the answer to that question because you didn't want to stand up in front of the class? See, you're an introvert, so you can't do public speaking. And remember in high school when your English teacher had that assignment, you had to get up in front of the class with your partner and you totally screwed up and you got A minus, God forbid. See, it's because you're an introvert and you don't know how to do public speaking. So when you write those thoughts down, your brain is going to give you all these examples of why they're true. Okay, because the brain always likes to hang on to negative things. And so what you're going to do is you're going to find positive evidence of why that's not true. Okay, so for example, you can't open up a practice. You don't know how, you don't even know what a LLC is versus a S Corp and a C Corp. You don't know what a P&L is. You don't even know how to do marketing, and you don't know contracts or whatever. It's going to give you a list of a zillion things that you don't know. Okay, but what you're going to say is you're going to say, understand that you're giving me all this evidence, but you know what? I know that I'm smart, and I know that I finished ophthalmology. You have to be pretty competitive to go into ophthalmology. I finished at the top of my class. I got great scores, and I know that I didn't know how to operate at first, but I learned. And I know that I didn't know any anatomy, and I learned. And I know how to, and you're going to come up with evidence to counter it. And when you write it down and your brain visualizes it and looks at it and reads it, then it starts very slowly rewiring those pathways. There's neural pathways in your brain that have been firing a specific direction of, like, you're a doctor, you can't do business, you're a doctor, you can't do business. You start sitting at the wheel and kind of turning it to the direction that you want. Okay, through this practice, please have self-compassion. Don't be like, oh my God, I've been like writing this down for a month and my brain keeps telling me the same thing. This is so annoying. Why do you give me that? Don't do that. This happened to me, and I got coached on it, and the coach is like, so how old are you? And I'm like, 45. She's like, so like your brain's been telling you this for at least, let's say if it started in your 20s, 25 years. And I'm like, okay. It's like, how long have you been writing this down? I'm like, 2 weeks. She's like, right, 25 versus 2. Like, oh, okay. So be compassionate. Just practice, repetition. What we tell, when a kid is a baby is learning to walk, right? They fall a zillion times until they learn it. You're going to fall a zillion times until you learn it. The baby doesn't fall 10 times and say, I'm never getting back up. I'm never going to walk. Sorry, I give up, right? And the baby is very compassionate towards itself. It gets up, it laughs, it smiles, and then it falls again. So practice, and then be consistent and go at a slow pace. Don't try to rush this. There's no rush. Time is a construct. There's no rush. You go at your own pace. do it at your own ease. And everybody's pace is different from somebody else's. So do not compare yourself. The only person that you need to be at ease with is yourself. So don't have that scarcity mindset of like, well, blah, blah started with me and they're over here and I'm still over here. That's okay. That's their journey and you have your own journey. Okay. So if you want to hear a little bit more about thought work and coaching your mind and minding your mind and figuring out what's all that clutter that's in there and your inner chatter, I have a podcast that's called Mindfulness Coaching for Female and Minority Physicians. It's on Spotify and iTunes and Buzzsprout. So feel free to listen. And if you like it, subscribe. I go in a lot more details about this sort of work. And thank you. I am super excited to have presented. It was so much fun. I could like talk all night long, as you can tell. And if y'all have any questions here, I'm going to go back to the first slide. I don't have my website because I just started this, but if you go to pahlavonsogul@gmail.com, you can email me with any questions. And I just started a private Facebook group called Mindful Living, where you can join if you're an MD or a DO, and we are going to be discussing a lot of these topics in that Facebook group. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I have to say, I knew you were good, but this was amazing. You by far exceeded like any expectation that I had. You blew it out the water. I mean, like I was trying to take notes, but I mean, you were dropping so many golden nuggets. Like if anybody is watching this, you really need to watch it again and again. I mean, you addressed so many things that are so crucial. I've often heard that business is 90% mindset and 10%, sometimes they say 95% and 10% how to. And it's really our mindset that gets in the way. I was listening to Bob Proctor was talking about JFK, and JFK, I forgot, said to somebody, he said, what will it take for us to get a man on the moon and back? And the guy simply said, the will to do it. And so many times it's so easy to get caught up on the how. How am I going to do this? I don't know how to do it. But that's when the why is strong enough, the how comes into focus. I mean, I think that this was supposed to be just for our ophthalmology private practice mastermind group, but the things that you've shared really are so universally important that with your permission, I'm going to share it on my general Facebook group, because everybody needs to hear this. Like even just myself, I was grappling with a important decision about my relationship that I'm in. And of course, that primitive brain says, no, you're going to die and end up living under a bridge, right? But just, I mean, you gave practical skills. I love, some of my favorite things that you said, like, don't believe your mind, your brain, because the messages that the brain is sending are oftentimes not true. One of my favorite acronyms for fear is false evidence appearing real. And interestingly, they say that a lot of times the things that we fear the most don't actually end up happening. And the horrible things that happen, we couldn't have seen coming anyway. But it's fascinating to me that our brains tend to, it's so easy to go to the negative, right? Like, so like I have a headache, oh, I might have a tumor, or I want, and it doesn't go to it doesn't always naturally go to the positive. And I remember talking, do you know who Taryn Rose is?
I don't.
So Taryn Rose, she was by training an orthopedic surgeon, and she decided that she was going to address the issue. I guess she was having a lot of patients come in with the fact that there were no cute, comfortable shoes. And so she started this shoe line, which is completely out of her normal sphere of training, right? That, like, not only is she starting a business, she's starting a business completely outside of medicine. she was ridiculously successful with that business. I think 10 years later, she sold it for like a gazillion dollars. Took a few years off and now has another shoe line that's really amazing. And Enrico Collini, which if you like high heels, they have this patent so that they're like the most comfortable high heels in the world, but I digress. But I talked to her and I was what made you think that you could start a successful shoe company? And she just said it like so matter of fact. She said, if I could get through orthopedic surgery residency,
Yes.
I could figure it out.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. I tell people, I was like, if you can get through the PICU, you can figure out business. Like,
yes, and I love the idea of embracing failure as being, because that's so opposite of what we are told in medicine, right? You can't go around like, even though in medicine, which is the truth, we all make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. To the point where medical errors were considered one of the top causes of death. But the whole idea is that you're not like, medicine is a very risk averse field, right? We're not taking any risks. We're doing everything by the book. We're rehearsing, we're planning, we're trying to do everything to avoid mistakes. Whereas business, like you said, the road to success is led by lots of failure. I remember once I heard that who's the Amazon CEO?
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, Bezos.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bezos has lost more money in business deals than most of us will ever see in a lifetime. But but it's the wins that make him memorable. Or where they talk about Babe Ruth, his strikeouts. I'm not a baseball fan, so I could be saying the terms all wrong, but he struck out way more times than he made home runs. But it's the wins that are most memorable.
Yeah.
Also, what was another one I like? The I like the political exercises. I think those were helpful for writing down as a part of reprogramming your brain, and self-compassion, right? Because I find that we as female physicians, we are so hard on ourselves, so hard on ourselves. And but self-compassion is so key, and giving ourselves permission to make mistakes and to grow and to learn from them. One of my favorite quotes is forgive yourself every night and recommit every morning.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And then just like even self-doubt, like even with me. So I did Dr. Una's podcast. She asked me to do our podcast on self-doubt. And right before I did our podcast, I was like, so you can edit this, right? Like if I make a mistake, you can edit it. She's like, you're not gonna make a mistake, just talk. And I'm like, yeah, but there's a cushion, there's a safety cushion there for me, right? Yeah, before any even this webinar that I had, I mean, you should have heard the thoughts in my head all day long. Oh, you're gonna screw up and you're gonna mess up the slides, and Facebook isn't gonna work, and the Zoom isn't gonna work, and what if this does this? And I was just like, it's okay, we're gonna be okay. And I kept going back to my why, and I was like, I want to tell my story. I want to help other physicians. I want to empower them. This is why I'm doing this. Keep going back to your why. Just kind of pat it on the head and say, it's all right. It's all right. No one's dying.
Yes, and thank you for sharing that. And that's you know, and that's so important. One of the things that was happening during the broadcast, because I'm not in my house, I'm in Beatrice, Alabama, and it kept saying your internet connection is unstable. So I'm like praying, like, God, please don't disconnect, please, because you were saying so many amazing things, and I was like, gosh, and I had to get to a point with, okay, well, what happens if the internet fails? The internet fails. Sometimes it fails. Sometimes people have technical difficulties. I would be disappointed, but it's not the end of the world. We can always, and kind of remembering that I'm not going to die. I'm not going to end up under a bridge is so important. But I just want to say that, and the other thing you mentioned is that that voice that is in your head that is calling you to move to a different level. And I think that with you, that you are the service that you're providing with your mindfulness coaching business is so important and so crucial. And you are so amazing. Like you were so amazing at making sort of complex topics very
Mhm.
simple and easy and approachable. So
Mhm.
bravo to you for
That's
doing
because I have to talk to kids all day long. So I'm like second grade level. Everything goes down on a second grade level to break everything down.
so you know that that works.
Yeah.
That works. Like I know, like one of the things that when I'm going to a doctor is I hate telling them that I'm a physician because then they start throwing all their medical terms at me. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not NGI, so I don't know your abbreviations. I don't like just explain it to me like you would like a like a regular person, because that's how I need to hear it. And I think sometimes we try to like um we don't realize the power of simplicity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I was going to say that oftentimes we tell ourselves that certain things are necessary in order to move forward in business. But I will tell you that I've hired a lot of coaches in my life, and I have never hired a coach um, because of their website. It's never been about the website. It's always been about the person. But it's really easy to have one of those things as being our like. It's really easy to come up with reasons or excuses why we
Yeah.
can't move forward. But so I just want to encourage you in that venture that you're on
Thank
to keep
you.
going.
Thank
Site or
you. I'm excited. I'm learning a lot. It's definitely out of my comfort zone. But it's fun.
good.
It's fun. It's fun. I'm
That's
having
good.
fun. That's what matters.
Yeah, because life is about growth, right? Life is
Yeah.
about growth.
Yeah.
I'm checking to see if anybody has any questions, which I don't see any, but definitely this is amazing. And thank you again for
Thank
helping to bring
you.
those, for those of us who are behind along the way. And
Yeah, and
I,
I'm happy to answer any questions. Just email me. And I wish y'all the best of luck and follow your hearts.
yes, thank you. All right. Thank you, Sogo.
How do I disconnect?
I'm going to end.
Okay, you have to do it on your part.